It's my nerd world. Welcome to it. I'm your host, Jon Justice, and on the show this week, well, we'll talk about what we know and what we don't know about this alleged full trailer for Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, which you may have already watched by the time you listen to this particular episode. I'm recording this on Sunday morning. I got a few things to talk about based off some recent comments from well-known Star Wars leakers, and then we're going to get into listener feedback. There's a lot of listener feedback to talk about, but this perhaps might be the shorter show that I was thinking about doing last week because of when this trailer is supposed to drop. So, as always, let's not waste any more time. I just want to give a quick shout out to Mystical Games and Collectibles. You can go to their website, mysticalgc.com, if you're in the Twin Cities area here in Minnesota and looking for a place to take care of all your gaming needs. Go by and see my buddies over at Mystical Games and Collectibles. If you're not in the Twin Cities area, go to their website. They got a bunch of stuff online, and it's fantastically priced. mysticalgc.com.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight. We'll always be with you. No one's ever really gone.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My nerd world.
Just let it in.
If you follow any of the Reddit pages when it comes to Star Wars, or honestly, if you go to Twitter, I use TweetDeck, and if you put up a column for the hashtag The Rise of Skywalker, man, anybody who wants to sort of put out an argument that Star Wars is dead, they're so delusional and off the mark. And I'm saying this because of all the expectation and the hype and the rumors swirling around when this full trailer is going to drop. I'm glad you're with the show this week. I'm probably going to be a little bit shorter. I know I said that last week, but I honestly really think it's going to be shorter this week. I have a few things that I want to get to based off some comments made from Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net. Also, a comment made by Rian Johnsons that people have been talking about, and I think it's worth talking about because I think it's relevant. And if you haven't seen this comment yet and you're a fan of The Last Jedi and looking forward to Rian Johnson's trilogy, well, this may give you a bit of pause. I know it did for me. So we'll talk about that. Before we get to all that, we'll do some trailer talk and when I think the trailer is coming. I was totally off last week, but hey, it was still a fun show anyhow. And then we'll get into all your listener feedback this week. You can always email me, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, or drop me a comment on YouTube. So let's start off with the trailer part of it. So there was an individual, and we covered this at length last week, who was on Reddit and making claims that they were in the know. We were going to get a bunch of teasers all day during football on Sunday, and then the trailer would drop on Monday the 7th. And they even had like trailer descriptions. Well, that never happened. So that person either is a complete and total liar, and I haven't gone back to look at their thread, or that person was off by a week or maybe 2 weeks. Needless to say, none of what we talked about at the end of the show during the spoiler part of it may in fact be true. It'll be interesting to see when the trailer does drop if that particular person that said it was supposed to drop last week and gave the trailer description actually had any part of the trailer description right, because there's been some trailer descriptions put out there already by Jason Ward at MakingStarWars.net. So where do we stand now when it comes to the trailer, provided it hasn't already dropped by the time you're listening to this show? So I was very much, after last week, and I'm still in this camp, I was very much of the opinion that this trailer is going to be out before Maleficent 2 hits theaters coming up this coming week. So that would mean we'll probably get some indication today, which is Sunday, and then we'll get the full trailer on Monday night during Monday Night Football, probably halftime, which is how they've done it before. Okay, so that was my speculation after last week didn't happen, just based off of my best guess. Then a podcast, Black Series Rebels, who hasn't ever leaked anything before, as far as I know. I think I've listened to like maybe one of their shows, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. They put out a tweet saying that the trailer would be dropping on Monday the 21st. You can take that blank to the bank. I'm like, all right. Way to be bold with your prediction. Sorry, I'm going to be a little snarky here, but I'm annoyed, and I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I'll explain why I'm annoyed. So some people pushed back on Black Series Rebels and asked for some further clarification, and some of the guys with the podcast on Twitter were a little harsh at people just wanting to get some further info. Jason Ward at MakingStarWars.net then didn't confirm what Black Series Rebels said, but did say that he had heard it would be the 21st as well. Okay. And then you've got Star Wars Newsnet. They went and grabbed onto the Black Series Rebel comment, and they went and ran a whole story about how they were going to be running this trailer on the 21st. And it's so fascinating, too, because it's a lot like with my full-time job of being a talk radio host. You see this happen often, where something happens and people can go online and speculate about it, right? That's not groundbreaking, but everybody suddenly becomes experts on the subject, right? Regardless of what it is, if there's some sort of major news story involving, a lot of different details of which people could extrapolate, it ends up being that everybody thinks that we've all become experts, even though we have no idea what we're talking about. We don't work in the industry. So when it comes to the trailers, you see people making arguments online of, well, the reason why it's coming out on Monday, which it might, okay, but the reason why it's coming out on Monday is because they haven't put Frozen 2 tickets on sale yet. And so they have to put Frozen 2 tickets on sale first before they go and put Star Wars tickets on sale. Okay. Well, that might be true. I mean, that seems like a reasonable explanation, but you have no evidence whatsoever to go and back up a claim like that. All right. So you've got basically Black Series Rebels came out and said this trailer was dropping on the 21st. And then Jason Ward kind of said, yeah, I've been hearing that too, and then Star Wars Newsnet just decided to put up a whole story saying the same thing. Maybe they've heard something similar. Okay, so since then, and during this whole time, there's been an individual on Reddit who works as a projectionist and said that they've actually seen, without any evidence, okay, so take it for what it's worth, they've actually seen the trailer at the movie theater attached to Maleficent, but it's locked. They can't get into to open it or anything until it's time to go and show the trailer. Then we got information, and this is actually legit. This happened just over the course of the past 24 hours. Theaters have been starting to receive the runtime for the Rise of Skywalker. Now, this wouldn't be the actual runtime of the film. This would just be a rough estimate for the theater chains to know how to space out their movie times. So as of right now, theaters have received a runtime of 155 minutes, which would be about 2 hours and 35 minutes. Okay, so that's not too surprising. It would put it pretty darn close to being the longest Star Wars movie ever, and everybody was kind of expecting that. I'm excited at that because they've got a lot to pack into this movie. If any of these leaks or rumors at all are true, then they've got a lot to get through with this film, and the longer the better, in my opinion. So the reason why that's relevant to a trailer is because of what I just said. If indeed that tickets are going to be going on sale like they always have after, okay, the premiere of the trailer, then yeah, the theaters need to know what the runtime is so they can go and schedule their showings. Now, that could be they're receiving it now in anticipation of a week from now for the 21st, but, and my voice cracked there a little bit. It's early morning on a Sunday. It's like 8:30. But, you know, I suppose that's true, but that's over a week's time between now and when they would drop. I would think that if these theaters have gotten the runtime and it's arriving online for us to see, then they've probably had the runtime for several days now. Okay. There was also a post, and this to me, well, there's two different things that I have to get through, and I'll double check the Reddit page before I move on in case something is dropped in the course of starting off the show this week. Somebody had posted an image from an email they received. They work for the company Scripps. I used to work for Scripps, so I actually know that they did this. Scripps sent out an employee email, and it looks completely official, right? Saying that tickets for the Scripps employee special screenings of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker will be going on sale Tuesday the 15th. Now, Scripps has done this before with the other Star Wars movies, and it tracks with tickets end up going on sale the day after for the screenings that Scripps was able to buy. So Scripps wouldn't be able to get the screenings to have tickets for their employees to buy until after the tickets went on sale. So they would go on sale Monday, Scripps would go and get their screenings, and then they would go and offer up tickets just to their employees. And they showed that email, which would mean the trailer was coming out on Monday. Then earlier in the week, we had John Boyega's agent posted on Instagram that the trailer was officially coming. So that was another indication. And then just this morning, John Boyega tweeted out a new promotional picture of him, Daisy Ridley, and Oscar Isaac as Finn, Rey, and Poe from The Rise of Skywalker. And doing a quick once-over of the Reddit leaks page during the show, it looks like Greg Grunberg, who plays Snap Wexley in The Force Awakens, but was absent for The Last Jedi, posted a new profile picture on Twitter showing him, again, as Snap Wexley in the cockpit of an X-Wing fighter. It looks like it might be like a behind-the-scenes shot, because it looks like there's some green screen, unless that's green from the outside of the ship. And John Boyega's agent just posted again, this is it, in response to John Boyega posting the picture of them. So look, that could all be coincidental. There's still the chance that this trailer we're all waiting for ends up dropping next week. But at this point, I'm looking forward to Disney confirming this at some point this morning. Like I said, maybe even because usually Disney will go and send out a tweet. The Star Wars account will go and send out a tweet saying, "Hey, watch Good Morning America tomorrow for a big announcement." And then they announce it's going to be on Monday Night Football, or they do a tease or something like that. All right, so we'll see if I'm right. I'll know within the next 24 hours, in which case why this show is going to potentially be a little bit shorter is due to the fact that I'll be doing definitely a very lengthy show about the full trailer when it goes and actually drops. All right, two more items, and then we'll dive into your listener feedback this week. So Jason Ward over at MakingStarWars.net put up a... it's not really cryptic. I mean, you can understand what he's saying, but he tweeted this out a day or two ago. He said, the ships that are not spaceships to really play out in a solid way. Okay, so talking about shipping, talking about Reylo, he's saying that, that Reylo scenario is going to play out in a solid way. He said, I think the ending of the film is totally that to the max, meaning Reylo, and then the other group that just wants the last name blank, okay, they get it too, so it kind of works out for everyone. I totally get why people want their jam in The Rise of Skywalker to come true. And honestly, from my perspective, it looks like the angry groups are getting their way, which is what ultra confuses my brain. Okay, so here's what I sort of determined from this without going too far down this path. It's kind of what I've been suspecting all along. I don't think that J.J. Abrams crafted this story, this final story with Chris Terrio, to appease any sort of segment of the fandom. You just want to write the best story possible. Chris Terrio has made some comments lately one of his first comments about the film, talking about that relationship and how important it was in The Last Jedi between Ben and Rey, and how they really worked from that. We know all of the commentary that J.J. Abrams had and the different analogies that he gave for Kylo Ren, Ben, and Rey going back to The Force Awakens. My expectation at this point, which I'm keeping low when it comes to specific items in the movie that I would really like to see, like a full sort of Reylo situation. But my speculation is we're going to have that definitive connection, even more so than what we saw in The Last Jedi, to show that connection between Rey and Ben that goes beyond just the Force, but something more on an emotional level, even though it may not completely pay out in a Rey and Kylo Ren sitting in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, flying off into the sunset together, happy. I think J.J. Abrams will find a middle ground right there at the end of this film that will appease the Reylos enough to go, okay, I can take it. But at the same time, those that weren't into that will also see the justification for what was done, not be annoyed by it, and hopefully the explanation of whatever JJ and Chris Terrio lay out about her background is enough to satisfy people that want Rey to be a nobody or didn't want Reylo at all. That's my current sort of position on it. And this is kind of based off of the leaks that we've seen, but I've shoved a lot of those leaks out of the way until we see some more evidence, especially from this full trailer, to sort of expand upon what my expectation is of the film or how legitimate those leaks actually are. Since there's been a lot of stuff that's come out in the course of the past week, especially after Triple Force Friday, that pushes back a bit on some of the details of those leaks. And one of those leaks as well, Jedi Paxis just came out and he went through his entire storyline treatment for the movie and changed a bunch of stuff around, saying this was because of the reshoots. So I think there's some truth in there, but I also think there's potentially some misdirection as well. All right, one more news item, and then we'll get to your listener feedback. And Rian Johnson continues to do his promotion for Knives Out, which comes out in November. As a matter of fact, I think there's a special screening, and I want to try to go get tickets to that. I forgot about that. Anyway, so he was, I think in Europe, he was in London, and they were doing the screening for Knives Out there at a film festival, and he was asked during a Q&A outside on the red carpet about the Star Wars trilogy, okay? And he said, well, we'll see. I mean, I'm still talking to Lucasfilm. They're figuring out what they're doing, and we'll see what happens. But I'd be thrilled if it happens, but I'm doing my own stuff too. Okay, I wouldn't put, and I don't put a ton of stock in what Rian Johnson said, and I don't want to extrapolate too far what he said. But that is a change from what we've heard Rian Johnson saying up until this point. Jason Ward came out recently, I think it was last week's Now This Is Podcasting show, and he talked about the future of Lucasfilm, potential for Kevin Feige's involvement in Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy and her future and how long she's going to be with Lucasfilm. And somebody, I think it was Junkman, Star Wars Junkman on Twitter, had posted that he's of the opinion that, Feige is going to come in and maybe sort of reshape what Disney was planning on doing. And somebody was right to point out that the announcement of Rian Johnson and his trilogy came before the release of The Last Jedi. And I think Disney has their own stack of data that they point to. I don't think it's fair to attribute the negativity of The Last Jedi that is seen on social media and say Disney is making decisions based on that. I will say that I imagine Disney is making decisions based off of the stacks of data points that they have that give a better representation of where the fandom actually is, not just based off of, sort of perception by what we see on social media, whether it's YouTube or Twitter. So I say all that to say that there is data, that may point to Disney going, we really need to take a better look at this, even beyond the Benioff and Weiss and Rian Johnson movie trilogy. And this announcement that Kevin Feige was going to be doing a Star Wars movie seem to be a bit trio-balloonish, in my opinion, meaning let's float this out there, see how the fans respond. I think that a lot is riding on the Rise of Skywalker, and I felt that way for a long, long time. And I think Disney is going to be making their decisions based off of how successful the Rise of Skywalker ends up being, and perhaps what Kevin Feige, sees of the landscape of Star Wars moving forward. And, things may not be as concrete as everybody thought. And I still, that whole picture, the movie film release for the next 5 or 6 years, I think that's all liquid and flexible, man. That got out. Disney didn't deny it, but that stuff, is there sort of as placeholders, and anything can change. But what do you think? I want Rian Johnson to do his trilogy, but I also want what's best for Star Wars as well. So if Disney decides that they're not going to do the Rian Johnson trilogy, the anti sort of the anti-Last Jedi people, the fandom menace, will be incredibly happy, right? I will be sad that Rian Johnson isn't doing his trilogy, but I'll also be happy that Disney is continuing to make Star Wars movies and probably making decisions based off of what they think is most relevant and important to keep the franchise alive. And for me, I am totally okay with that. Drop me an email, talkshownerd@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
All right, let's dive into your listener feedback for this week. And first, we talk to John Forbes. Hey, John. I've been waiting for your podcast patiently all week. Oh, thanks, man. Loving these discussions about the Rise of Skywalker. Discovered your podcast only a month ago, and now I'm hooked. Wonder what your thoughts are about the theory of Rey and Kylo representing a parallel between Padme and Anakin. Secretly love the idea that Rey is Padme reincarnated. Okay. I believe Padme became attuned to the Force when pregnant with the twins. Kylo and Rey's Force bond did not surprise me in The Last Jedi after the scene where Anakin and Padme sensed each other across the city in Episode 3 when Anakin was in pain over what to do about Palpatine. Would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. I'm a fan of the reverse Amidala, right? I love the idea, and so far they've actually kind of done this, but I love the idea of these parallels between Padme and Anakin from the prequels and what we've seen with Ben and Rey in the sequel trilogy. And certainly Rian Johnson took the little bit that J.J. Abrams had laid down in The Force Awakens and really expanded upon that in The Last Jedi. And there's a delicate genius, I'm not going to lie, there's a delicate genius to what Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi in how he crafted that relationship. And he made it very subtle. He made it very, very emotional. He made it very deep. He made it very intimate, but also left enough ambiguity in there that people can leave the movie sort of wondering, well, what was that about? Was that romance? Was that more familial connection, even though they're not related? I thought what Rian Johnson did was masterful in crafting that and allowing the opportunity for J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio to then pick up where, Rian Johnson left off with Colin Trevorrow getting booted off and seeing what they do with those characters. I hope they continue doing that. I don't think that Rey is Padme reincarnated, but I love the idea of sort of bookending the three trilogies together by doing sort of a reverse of what we saw in the prequel trilogy. And with the reintroduction of Palpatine, you're sitting in a really, really great spot to go and do that. I started my own journey to the Rise of Skywalker last night. If you watch a Star Wars movie, including Solo and Rogue One, and you do them in chronological order, starting with Episode 1, and you watch it every weekend, you can get right to the week that the Rise of Skywalker opened up. So last night I sat down and had just a wonderful late evening watching The Phantom Menace. Thanks for the call, John. I hope that answered your question, or at least gave you the comments you were looking for. All right, Irene Davis says this. Can you give me a heads up on how to purchase your audiobooks from the UK? So Irene, thanks for the side note, but thanks for the interest. Yeah, if you go to Amazon.com and you go to Amazon, .co UK, you can pick up the audiobooks from the European version of Amazon. They're all available there, and I'm sure you can get there if you just, wherever you are, go to Amazon.com and search for EMBARK and Jon Justice, and you can pick up the audiobooks from there. And remember, if you buy the ebooks, you get a huge discount off the audiobooks. Right now, EMBARK, the first book, is 99 cents for the ebook. And then for Treasure in Darkness Book 2, it's currently $2.99. But even if you spend the $3, you're still going to get like almost $10 off of the audiobook for Treasure in Darkness. So thanks for your interest, and I hope you enjoyed the book. Across the Stars writes, they do seem to be focusing on things for little kids. And even that merch is crappy. It just sits on the shelves. They haven't really offered anything for us older fans. I went to a Target yesterday and found nothing on the shelves. It's like they didn't even bother. And like you, John, I have been collecting Star Wars merchandise since the old trilogy. You basically have a choice between the kids' cheap merchandise or the very expensive collectible merch, which has been very disappointing. Yeah, I've been bummed too. I'm really hoping that we get another 3 3/4 line, sort of, around your $7.99, $8.99 per figure range, rather than having to pay almost $20 for the vintage series, which I really enjoy. And I, really broke down my thoughts on all this stuff last week's show, so I won't tread back over old ground. I'll change my tune. I mean, I got what I wanted from, and look, at the end of the day, I have just as many Star Wars toys purchased for Christmas for myself that I do leading up to every year where there's a new Star Wars movie. So for those that don't know, I buy the stuff, my Star Wars toys, and then I hold on to them until Christmas, and then my wife wraps them for me, and then I open up on Christmas, and then I open up and play with my toys. So I have just as many Star Wars toys as I would normally purchase, even if they had an abundance of stuff to buy. So, I don't know. I think that said something. And they're all items that I want. So we'll wait to see when the rest of the toys for the Rise of Skywalker comes out to see how much stuff they actually didn't release. All right, Miranda writes, I want to make a quick comment about the Empire Magazine portion, and that rather than focus on what people's reactions were, just got into what people's reactions were. It just got into a straightforward synopsis and makes a quick recap of the Last Jedi events, and that JJ is finishing off the final installment. And you comparing the way publications in the UK and how they write about certain things in their articles, whereas reporters and most journalists, let alone writers of variety internet articles and literature, are so fixated on controversy and obsesses way too much on the political climate and other hot potato topics we hear so much in our daily lives, to the point that it has created a toxic environment, as well as people picking sides that speak to them. We can point fingers at the fandom menace all day and call out their embarrassing behavior, but I truly believe that the media and the journalism, or at least the way that they make reports and talk about things, especially in art and pop culture, have made a huge contribution, yes they have, to fanning the flames on the negativity. It's like gossip and tabloids and certain magazines about celebrities, because it's practically the exact same thing, that we're way too obsessed with PT culture and being too quick to assume to calling something an SJW, or assuming you have a certain mentality of one of two main political issues. Instead of just talking about movies and leaving the fans alone, the media and journalists, even critics in these magazines, reviews and articles in the internet in general in the U.S., are more interested in stirring the pot than starting an argument where it's not needed. And it just makes it a goal to piss people off. It's not the kind of thing I normally talk about here, looking at the way things have been in the fandom and how so many people have been treating this issue, let alone everything in general relating to the sequel trilogy. It's often exhausting that this weird fandom civil war had to implode during what has been one of the most divisive, polarizing times in modern day and age. And I think the media, especially in the U.S. in general, the way they've been treating this problem has been the furthest thing from helpful. So, yes, let's learn something from the British. Okay, no more ranting. And now for a less heated comment, let's talk about the trailer. Didn't hear the spoilers part. I'm expecting nothing more than for this final trailer to be as epic as it can be, and even better, it will likely be during my birthday week, so it's a birthday present for me. 4 days in advance, that is. And if I can get a ticket or a movie gift card to see it multiple times for free as my present, then I don't want anything else for the rest of the year. Thank you very much. And I agree with the most, if not all, of your comments there. I really do appreciate you writing in. All right, Jared writes this. Rewatching with fresh eyes gave me a new perspective on the movie, TFA. and it did not give me flashbacks to bad memories of 2015. The first thing I noticed was that J.J. Abrams adds a ton of intrigue to the characters of Rey, Kylo, and Snoke, and others. To say that J.J. Abrams added nothing to the Star Wars story is a fallacy. While the narrative follows the general plot of A New Hope, Abrams builds character with such engaging and personalities that it just draws you into the story, regardless of the plot. I decided to watch the ending of TFA into the intro of TLJ back-to-back, just skipping the part where Rey finds Luke on the island. That way, the Abrams shot was the last shot, and how it carries over into The Last Jedi is spectacular. It is not a moment that is meant to be played off as a joke. The look that Luke gives Rey at the end of the first film is a look first of wonder, then fear, confusion, and then even resentment. The look blends seamlessly with the one he gives in The Last Jedi, carrying on the last facial expression as he holds the lightsaber with a look of resentment on his face, and then he decides to toss the lightsaber. This small moment is realistic, and there does not appear to be a disconnect between Abrams' ending and Johnson's beginning. Luke does not want to believe in the fairy tale anymore and has been hardened by all that he's lost. I feel like I'm rambling at this point. I'm so happy I've been able to stay on this journey toward Episode 9 with you since I started listening in February last year. Thanks, Jared. I appreciate it. You have been such a friendly and welcoming voice who shares his ecstatic love for Star Wars fandom and the franchise. Wow, thanks. Thank you for everything you do for the Star Wars YouTube community. And Jared, thank you so much for writing, man. I really do appreciate it. And as I've always said, when it comes to the show, I started the show because of my love for Star Wars. It would give me an opportunity to sort of get it out of my system because I have a lot to say every single week. I'm doing a lot of that now on the Blaster app and posting little mini commentaries on Twitter and on Blaster. You can get that at the store, at the App Store, Blaster app, all one word. But when I started the show, it was just like, well, I hope people enjoy my take on Star Wars and will come along for the ride. And people have, and that really means a lot to me. And thanks for the comment, Jared. All right, James Young writes this. Thanks for your hard work. I listened to you while flying for work at the gym and cleaning the house. From Kentucky, may the force be with you. And may the force be with you. All right, Disc Easy Pro says this. Congrats on the successful toy hunts. I was happy that I was available, what was available in the stores and got everything I wanted with so much content coming out. Maybe it's better that there's such a limited amount. Yep, can get heavy on the wallets. Yes, it can. I think I'll join you in this goal as I've been needing to shed some pounds too. Hey, that's cool. All right, target weight loss on Insight, Rise of Skywalker. Speaking of which, those leaks, they have me both scared and excited. December can't get here fast enough. Great show again, and keep up the work. It's really funny, too, because I mentioned on last week's show I'm doing a very low-carb, calorie-counting diet, and I've dropped about 6 pounds so far. I want to lose about 30. That'd be where I want. I would, be way, I would be a lot thinner than I've been for a long, long time, but that's my main goal. But it's funny, I was watching The Phantom Menace last night, and that moment that kind of everybody not everybody, but people cringe at when Qui-Gon Jinn is talking to Anakin about the midichlorians, and Qui-Gon says, your focus determines your reality. There was a lot of great symbolism and relatable commentary you could pull from the original trilogy by what George Lucas had put together with those movies. And he did the same thing in the prequels, and I think a lot of times people miss that. May the Force be with you, and certain points of view, and things like that, different ideas and concepts. But that focus determines your reality, man. That's right there in Joseph Campbell, Lucas sort of Star Wars mythology, spot on. It's true. You want to lose weight, focus on losing weight. Focus on the goal. That will go and determine your reality. All right. Friend of the show, friend of mine, David Vanderhoof. So much for previews during football. Yeah, that's right. I know. Didn't happen. So what he goes on to say is this. I want to say thanks for the shout out about my what no vehicles on Twitter. So I posted some photos of my haul from Force Friday. I didn't have any vehicles, and I explained, well, they only put out the X-Wing fighter. I was able to finally get some of the Hot Wheels diecast ships, but hopefully we'll get more ships down the road. And David knows how much I love the vehicles. I'm really disappointed with the sequels, David writes. They have been lackluster when it comes to new creative ships. I did like the bombers in The Last Jedi, but the fact that the TIE X-Wings have all been warmed over, the prequels and Clone Wars had all moved with new ships. As much as I love B-Wings and A-Wings, you need to read Alphabet Squadron. I know I do. I was hoping for something new and different. Maybe I'm wrong. My other issue, where is R2? My favorite scene in The Last Jedi is where R2 bitch slaps Luke on the Falcon with Leia's message. I've been a friend. He's been my friend since 77. I have my original action figure. So do I. It's right over there. I will say I love the Snowtrooper and I love the passion you showed talking about it on last week's show. I'm thankful for the podcast, and I'm going to have cancer surgery on the 21st. Oh, man. I've got to be healthier because our saga is finishing, and on opening night, R2 and I will be there. Thanks for your positivity, and the excellent podcast. Your friend David, and David, thank you for writing, man, and my prayers are with you for that surgery. And hey, I hope they drops on the 14th. If not, you'll have a trailer on the day of your surgery. You'll be able to watch it when you wake up. I meant that in a positive way. It sounded like I didn't, but I really did. I guess that would be something that I would do if I had to go through another open heart surgery and the trailer was dropping that day. I'd just be like, well, I know when I wake up, you can shove that trailer in my face. So as far as R2 goes, by the way, he's been, and I mentioned this to David, R2's been showing up on a ton of merchandise now. Yeah, he's kind of been everywhere. As a matter of fact, he's in some of the shots for the Rise of Skywalker. He's actually in, and some of the ancillary toys, the model kits. He's actually in Poe Dameron's X-Wing, and he showed up on a lot of material. So I'm confident we'll get a lot of R2-D2 in the Rise of Skywalker. All right, Jennifer Oliver says this, friend of the show. I rewatched the trailer for The Last Jedi, and it got me so pumped for the next one. Of course, I really love TLJ, so that might be part of the feels when I get to see it. However, I think we'll all be amazed come Monday. Yeah, hopefully it's this Monday. Let's see here. Aaron Lynch writes this. I'm commenting on this after Jedi Paxis posted his reshoot leak, which I would go on and on about if they weren't absolute BS, says Aaron. And I don't want to be too negative because I love how positive the podcast is. And then let me say, by the way, for the record, I so appreciate everybody saying how positive the podcast is, but don't ever, and I know, I'm sure you know this, but don't ever let that affect what you write to me. You know, I have no problem with pointing out, you can point out stuff and be negative about stuff without being overly negative, right? I will always be positive about the Star Wars that I love. But please, if you've got some issues or problems with something within the fandom or the stories, by all means, share them. It doesn't mean that we're, critical, maybe critical, right? Let's be critical. Let's be honest. That's probably a better word. Let's be honest. But let's not be negative. You can be positive and you can be honest and still keep that positivity. Okay. Let's see. What I will say is that Jedi Paxis is a moderator on the Star Wars Reddit leaks page, so no matter how hated and crappy his leaks are, they will not be taken down, and that's that. If any other user posted the leaks Paxis posted, it would be marked as probable BS or taken down. Sorry, not Spartacus is not the moderator. Jedi Paxis is the only active moderator, so no matter how much hate and debunking he receives, it will stay on the subreddit. Interesting. Well, and again, when we get that trailer, I think we'll know whether or not there's any validity to any of those leaks. All right, one more, and then we're going to wrap the show up for this week. Like I said, and keeping it a little bit short in anticipation of another episode coming up probably tomorrow or Tuesday once the trailer drops. Let's see. The toys may be top-notch, but do you think the days of buying Star Wars toys for kids have changed? Yes, they've absolutely changed. Unless you're a hardcore fan or a collector, today's kids want, well, do they want now more than a new VR game or a game station? Right? Let's see. They're time-stamping. Color of Caramel timestamps when they're talking about certain things, so they kind of jump around when it comes to their specific topics. The last line that they say here is, why can't Rey be just an ordinary person who just happens to be strong with the Force? I don't know, man. That's not for me to decide. And I'm totally okay with whatever the storytelling is. Again, I treat these movies as a sort of historical content. So, all right. Sorry about that. That last one was a little bit messy. Oh, here, you know what? I actually got one more. Let's wrap up on this one here. Friend of the show, Anthea Gaia, says this. Congrats on making your on progress on your fitness journey. Your podcast is my go-to for my time at the gym. Should I talk a little faster? Right? Should I pace it a little better so you can keep time? I'm sorry. Star Wars has given me motivation for working out since I cosplay Rey. Yep, I've seen those pictures. And they're awesome, by the way. And strive to be physically fit like her. I feel so much better now that fitness is a part of my daily life, especially since I will be turning 40 in about 2 weeks. I know, right? 47. Good luck on your journey, too. It's totally worth it. I, too, was a bit disappointed at the toy selections for Triple Force Friday. I hope we get more soon. I had to go online to order other things. I like the new format for your show with the spoilers at the end. It seems like the trailer drop date is in flux, so it'll either be this Monday or possibly next. The info about the trailer you mentioned sounds cool, especially the part at the end. I'm thinking the leaks we have heard so much about are looking more and more false as we go, since we have gotten some information that contradicts them, as I talked about a little bit later on. Also, I don't believe Adam Driver has been back for reshoots, and he's a huge part of the story. It seems odd that they would leave him out of it if that's the case. Not sure if you saw the drama on Twitter this week with Making Star Wars, but yikes, I had to unfollow him. Not sure what set him off against Reylos, but his responses were completely distasteful to me. I just want to thank you again for being such a positive part of the fandom. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that some people who, are privy to a lot of amazing information and stuff they could share with the Star Wars fandom end up, unfortunately, being toxic a lot of times. And one particular podcast I was listening to, because I wanted to hear some of those detailed potential legitimate leaks, went on a couple of really bizarre, juvenile tangent rants, and I just didn't understand it. I'm just like, okay, boy. Heaven forbid any children were listening to this, but obviously it's not a kid's show, but man alive. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road anymore. I just want to say, hey, thank you so much for checking out the show this week. Here's praying that trailer drops and we have some information here soon. As of 9:15 on Sunday morning, I don't have anything just yet. Although it does look like I may have a last-minute email that just popped up for this week's show, so let me open up my email box, and yes, I do. Let's see. Finn1189 says, looking forward to the new show today. I recently happened upon this little piece from the Wrap, and I was wondering your thoughts on it. Oh, well, let's see what this is. Oh, okay, so, well, thank you, F1189. The article from the Wrap is, it's weird that we don't know what Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is about. The end of the Skywalker saga is allegedly nigh, but it sure doesn't feel like it. You know what? I'm going to spend some time with this and talk about it on the next full show, probably next week, provided we don't have a trailer to discuss. If we do have a trailer that drops, all right? If we do have a trailer that drops on Monday, keep an eye on my Twitter feed, at Jon Justice and at the My Nerd World. Or if you've already downloaded the Blaster app, you'll get the notification, Blaster app, in your app store, all one word. I will be sharing my thoughts via the Blaster app on Twitter and Facebook in little audio mini podcasts. And I'll be doing that today, too, if they start to drop little nuggets today. So if they begin to start putting out some details about this trailer and some clips, I will be putting up some audio throughout the day today and certainly tomorrow if the trailer drops, and then you'll have a full show coming up on Tuesday. So be sure you follow me on Twitter at Jon Justice or at the My Nerd World, or on the Blaster app at My Nerd World or Jon Justice. All right, that wraps up the show for this week. Thank you so much for hanging out. Be sure, if you want to support the show, to go to Amazon.com and pick up a copy of either of the first books in my trilogy in the EMBARK series, EMBARK 1 and EMBARK Book 2, Treasure in Darkness, both available for ebook, paperback, and audiobook at Amazon.com. Just search for EMBARK and Jon Justice and pick them up. I would really, really appreciate it. You can also gift them to a friend right there from the Amazon website. I'll talk to you guys real soon. I hope you're having a fantastic week and enjoying this cool fall snowy weather here in Minnesota. My goodness. All right, talk to you guys soon. Bye.
The Force will be with you always.
My Nerd World.